$87,000. Cash. Gone. That's what Garrett Hayes thought when he pulled up to his newly purchased mountain cabin and saw a stranger's SUV in his driveway. But it got worse. The woman on the porch, blonde, furious, and yes, holding a shotgun, screamed at him, "Get off my property before I call the cops!" The smell of fresh paint he never authorized mixed with someone else's dinner cooking inside his house. Her curtains hung in his windows. Garrett had the deed in his hand. She had possession. And the sheriff who showed up 20 minutes later, he sided with her. "This is a civil matter," the cop said. "Y'all need to take it to court." Garrett just got robbed in broad daylight, and the law helped the thieves. What would you do if squatters claimed your own house? Drop a comment with where you're watching from, because this legal nightmare gets way worse before it gets better. Meet Garrett Hayes, 52, retired union electrician from Pittsburgh. The kind of guy who spent 30 years climbing utility poles in February snowstorms because the overtime paid double. Every extra dollar went into the coffee can. Well, the savings account, but you get it. 3 years ago, his wife Helen lost her fight with cancer. The kind that doesn't just kill you. It bankrupts you first, then kills you anyway. But before she died, she grabbed his hand. Her fingers felt like bird bones by then, and said, "Go live your dream, baby. Don't just exist." So Garrett started looking. His kids kept pushing. Emily, the social worker, sent him Zillow links weekly. Travis, who ran a construction crew, offered to help renovate whatever he found. "Dad, you've worked your whole life. Do something for you." He found it on a foreclosure auction site at 2 in the morning, the insomnia hour. A 1970s A-frame cabin on 40 acres of West Virginia ridge. The photos showed peeling wood siding, a stone chimney that had seen better decades, and forest views that made his chest ache. It needed work, sure, but Garrett knew how to fix things. 30 years of sparking wires and blown fuses taught him that much. $87,000. The listing promised clear title, bank-owned foreclosure, sold as is. Garrett hired a remote inspector. Guy confirmed the foundation was solid, roof needed patches, electrical was Vietnam era, but functional. Paid $300 for a title search. Came back spotless. No liens, no claims, no ghosts. He wired the money. Life insurance from Helen plus 3 decades of overtime. Closed remotely because banks love DocuSign now. And Charleston was 4 hours away anyway. The plan? 6 months of rehab, then decide. Retire there or flip it and buy something easier. Either way, it was his. The drive from Pittsburgh took 5 hours through mountain switchbacks. Garrett brought Dez, his contractor buddy, 6'4", arms like suspension cables, could frame a house blindfolded. They packed Garrett's F-150 with tools, industrial cleaning supplies, and a case of Iron City for the celebration. That 2-lane blacktop wound through God's country. Pine smell so thick you could taste it. Creek water rushing over rocks somewhere below. Garrett cracked the window. Cold November air bit his face, but damn, it felt alive. "First time seeing it in person, right?" Dez asked, gnawing beef jerky. "Yeah." Garrett's hands were slick on the wheel. GPS led them up a gravel road that rattled his fillings loose. Around the last bend, there. His A-frame, exactly like the photos. Except 3 vehicles clogged the driveway. New Chevy Tahoe, contractor truck with logos, and a Camry. Smoke drifted from his chimney. Garrett?" Dez pointed like he'd seen a UFO. "Someone's here." The front door exploded open. A woman charged out, early 50s, blonde hair shellacked into submission, makeup thick enough to spackling, yoga pants that screamed, "I need to speak to a manager." She was vibrating with rage. "This is private property. You're trespassing." Garrett killed the engine, grabbed his deed folder, stepped out onto gravel that crunched like broken teeth under his boots. "Ma'am, there's been a mistake. I own—" "That's fake!" She stabbed a finger at his papers. "This house belongs to my family. My great-uncle built this place." A man lumbered out behind her. 50s, gut testing his camo hoodie's durability, Carhartt boots crusted with red clay. "You got scammed, buddy. That auction was fraudulent. We're reclaiming our property." Garrett's pulse hammered in his ears. "I have the deed, title insurance, bank documents. County records are wrong," she hissed. "We've been paying taxes." The man whipped out his phone. "Calling Sheriff Hooper. He'll handle this." Garrett saw it then. Curtains in the windows, kids' scooters on the porch, propane grill on the deck, the smell of pot roast drifting out the door, someone else's dinner cooking in his kitchen. They weren't visiting. They were living here. Des muttered, "We need a lawyer, now." 20 minutes later, sheriff's cruiser. Deputy climbing out, late 40s, mustache like a push broom, uniform buttons screaming for mercy. He clasped hands with the husband like they shared a fantasy football league. "Wade, appreciate you coming," the man said. Sheriff Hooper barely glanced at Garrett's deed, listened to both sides with the enthusiasm of a man picking jury duty. Then, "Civil matter, folks, both claiming ownership. Court's gotta sort it. Till then, nobody's evicting nobody." The blonde, Pamela Sutherland, he'd learned, smiled, teeth white as chiclets. "Possession's 9/10 of the law, sweetheart." The sheriff left. Garrett stood in his own driveway, holding proof of ownership, watching strangers live in his house. He'd been robbed in broad daylight, and the law had just driven away. Garrett sat in his truck at the bottom of the mountain, hands shaking so hard he couldn't get the key in the ignition. Des just stared out the windshield like he'd witnessed a murder. "What the hell just happened?" Des finally said. "I got robbed," Garrett said, "and the sheriff helped them do it." They found a roadside motel 10 miles down the highway, the kind with a buzzing neon vacancy sign and a vending machine that only took quarters. The room smelled like mildew and someone else's mistakes. Garrett couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., he was on his laptop, diving into West Virginia property law like a man possessed. That's when he found it. Pamela Sutherland wasn't just some random squatter. She was the top-selling real estate agent in the county. Her face smiled from a dozen sold signs on her agency website. She'd know that property was in foreclosure. She had to. And here's the thing about foreclosures, they're public record. Garrett found the notice published in the county paper 18 months ago, right there in the legal classifieds where nobody reads, required by law, which meant Pamela definitely saw it. His old union rep had once told him about adverse possession, how squatters could claim property if they lived there long enough, out in the open, like they owned it. In West Virginia, that's 10 years of continuous occupation. Pamela's family couldn't possibly qualify, but here's what she could do. Create enough legal delays to live there rent-free while the courts ground through the case. 2 years, easy, maybe 3. The system rewards whoever's willing to wait it out. Day 2. Garrett got an email that made his blood pressure spike. Cease and desist letter from some slick Charleston law firm. Pamela's lawyers claimed his purchase was defective title, demanded he relinquish his claim or face a harassment lawsuit, and they made sure to mention Randall's position as county building inspector. The threat was clear as glass: fight us and we'll make your life hell through official channels. Garrett drove into town and found Beverly Frost, late 60s, semi-retired attorney working from a home office that looked like a library exploded. Case files stacked on every surface, coffee mugs growing ecosystems, but her eyes were sharp as razor wire. "Honey," she said after reviewing his documents, "you've got ironclad ownership. Problem is, Pamela's playing the long game. She knows the judges. She's betting you'll give up and go back to Pittsburgh." Beverly filed an emergency eviction motion. Court date, 6 weeks out. Rural docket backlog. The wheels of justice turn slow when you're not local. "One more thing," Beverly warned. "Randall inspects half the new construction in this county. He's got favors stacked up like firewood. Watch yourself." Garrett couldn't help it. 3 days later, he drove past the property, just to see. That's when he spotted Randall's construction crew pouring concrete for an addition on the back of the house. They were improving his property, creating a sweat equity argument. "Look, Your Honor, we invested $20,000 in improvements. Surely that counts for something." Garrett filmed it on his phone, hands trembling with rage, and sent it to Beverly. "They're ballsy," she said. "That's illegal construction on disputed property, but filing a stop work order shows our hand. Let them dig their hole deeper." The financial hit came next. Garrett's bank called, the one holding his mortgage on 2 rental properties back in Pittsburgh. Anonymous complaint filed, claiming Garrett used fraudulent documents to purchase the West Virginia property. Pending investigation, they were freezing his credit line, $30,000 he couldn't access. Pamela was using Randall's county connections to strangle him financially, betting he'd break before she did. Garrett stood in that mildew motel room, phone pressed to his ear while his credit evaporated, and realized something. They weren't just stealing his house. They were coming for everything. These people had turned property theft into a coordinated assault, legal delays, financial pressure, official intimidation, and they'd probably done it before. That thought burned in his gut. How many others had Pamela and Randall squeezed out? How many people took a settlement just to escape? He called Des. I need you to dig into Randall's business. Permits, projects, everything public record. On it, Des said. But brother, you sure you want to keep fighting? These people play dirty. Garrett looked at the deed sitting on the motel nightstand, Helen's insurance money. 30 years of overtime. His future. I'm sure, he said. Beverly laid out the strategy over burnt coffee in her cluttered office. We build a public record. Make this messy for them. She had Garrett file formal complaints with everyone who'd listen. State Real Estate Commission for Pamela's license. Conflict of interest when you're claiming ownership in your sales territory. County Ethics Board for Randall's inspector role while he's in a personal property dispute. State Attorney General requesting fraud investigation. It was bureaucratic warfare, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Garrett learned something useful during those sleepless research nights. Public officials in dual-role conflicts have to recuse themselves. If Randall's inspecting buildings while fighting a personal legal battle, that's an ethics violation, suspension, maybe termination. The system had rules, even if nobody enforced them until you made noise. Pamela's retaliation came fast and vicious. She wrote a Google review of Garrett's old electrical contracting business. Dormant now, but still online. Claimed he scammed her family, called him a dangerous con artist, said he stole property through fraud. The review went nuclear in local West Virginia Facebook groups. Pamela had roots here, friends everywhere. Garrett started getting messages from numbers he didn't recognize. City Slicker Thief. Go back to Pittsburgh, Yankee. One particularly charming individual suggested he might have an accident on those mountain roads. Then Luann Pritchard walked into his life. 60-something, former county clerk, retired but still sharp. She overheard Garrett on the phone with Beverly at the diner, approached his booth like she had a secret to share. You're the guy fighting Pam Sutherland? Honey, sit down. I got stories. Turns out Pamela's family never owned that property. Her great-uncle had rented the A-frame back in the 80s, let it fall apart, got evicted for non-payment in 87. Pamela had been spinning this family legacy fairy tale for years. Luann knew of 2 other foreclosures where Pamela tried similar stunts. Both settled quietly when the buyers paid her to disappear. It was a pattern, a business model. Buy low at auction, Pamela squats, claims generational ownership, buyer settles for pennies just to end the nightmare. Luann took Garrett to the county archives, pre-digital records stored in a basement that smelled like mold and old paper. They found the original 1972 deed showing the property sold to an out-of-state investor. No Sutherland anywhere on the chain of title. Then a rental agreement from 1983, Pamela's great-uncle as tenant, not owner. Lease terminated 1987 for non-payment, black and white proof. Garrett took the evidence to Sheriff Hooper, feeling like he finally had ammunition. The sheriff looked at the documents with all the enthusiasm of a man watching paint dry. This doesn't change the civil matter, Mr. Hayes. Court still has to decide. You mean you won't enforce the law because Randall's your buddy? Garrett's voice was tight. Hooper's face hardened. Watch your tone. I'm trying to keep the peace in this county. That's when Garrett understood. Local law enforcement wasn't incompetent. It was compromised. The good old boy network wasn't a myth. It was infrastructure. 2 days later, Randall showed up at the motel. Not threatening, just condescending. Leaned against Garrett's truck like he owned that too. Look, let's be reasonable. I'll buy the property from you. $80,000. You walk away clean, no more lawyers. Garrett's jaw clenched. I paid $87, plus legal fees, plus my time. $75 then. Final offer. Randall smiled, but his eyes were cold. Because if you fight this, I'll make sure every permit you ever need in this state gets buried in red tape. Foundation inspections, electrical sign-offs, I got friends in every department. Get out, Garrett said. Randall's truck tires sprayed gravel as he peeled out. The motel room reeked of cigarettes and pine sol when Garrett went back inside. His hands shook as he poured 2 fingers of whiskey. Rare for him, he wasn't much of a drinker. But tonight felt like an exception. His daughter Emily called from Philadelphia. Dad, Travis showed me the Facebook stuff. This sounds dangerous. Maybe take the money? $75,000 isn't nothing. Garrett stared at the amber liquid in his glass. Your mom and I saved every penny for this. I'm not letting some small-town crook steal it because they've got a badge and a real estate license. Emily was quiet for a moment. She'd be proud of you, Dad. Stubborn as hell, but proud. He smiled despite everything. Yeah, she would be. She would. Beverly went on offense. She filed a motion to expedite the court date, arguing ongoing property damage from illegal construction. Attached photos of Randall's concrete addition, permits he never pulled, inspections he never scheduled. The judge, a visiting circuit judge, not one of Randall's buddies, granted partial relief. Ordered the Sutherlands to stop construction immediately but didn't evict them yet. Court date moved up to 3 weeks. Small victory, but Garrett would take it. Then Beverly taught him a trick that had become useful later. Lis pendens. Latin for suit pending. It's a notice you file on a property title that screams legal dispute in progress to anyone who checks. Prevents sale or transfer until the case resolves. Garrett filed it immediately, blocking Pamela from flipping his property to some third party while they fought in court. Every little move mattered now. This was chess, not checkers. Pamela's countermove was pure desperation wrapped in legal paperwork. She filed a restraining order against Garrett, claimed he stalked her by driving past the property, his own property. Said his emails through lawyers constituted harassment. Accused him of making threats, though she had zero evidence because it never happened. The local judge, probably golfing with Randall on weekends, granted a temporary order. Garrett couldn't come within 500 feet of his own house. The irony tasted like battery acid. Then the media hit. Local paper ran a story. Outsider buyer battles, local family over mountain home. The slant was pure sympathy for Pamela. Local family fighting to save generational land from foreclosure vulture. Garrett, a retired electrician who'd saved 30 years for this, was painted as some Wall Street predator. The comment section turned vicious fast. Yankees ruin everything. These people buy our land and kick us out. One charmer wrote, hope he drives off a cliff. Beg. Small-town solidarity is beautiful until it's weaponized against you. Garrett's son Travis called, voice tight with worry. Dad, you're trending on Twitter. Not good trending. Someone had posted a video, Pamela crying on the porch, dabbing her eyes, saying Garrett was trying to steal my grandkids' home. The performance was Oscar-worthy. It had 40,000 shares. Garrett's friends from Pittsburgh started asking uncomfortable questions. His niece unfriended him on Facebook. But Des came through, spent 2 days digging through county records, permit databases, business filings. Found something beautiful. Randall's LLC had received $8,500 from the bank to secure and maintain the foreclosed property before auction. He was supposed to winterize it, lock it up, keep it safe. Instead, Randall had moved his family in while the property was still bank-owned, before the auction even happened. The private investigator Garrett hired, $2,000 he couldn't afford, found social media posts proving it. Pamela's daughter tagged at the cabin 4 months before Garrett's purchase. They'd been squatting in bank property, then just kept squatting when it sold. Man, Des said over the phone, what if they planned this whole thing? Randall gets hired to secure it, tells Pamela it's going to auction, they move in and wait for some sucker to buy it, then claim adverse possession or force a settlement. Beverly's eyes lit up when Garrett showed her the evidence. She filed an amended complaint, fraud, conspiracy, theft by deception. This wasn't a civil dispute anymore. This had criminal written all over it. Suddenly, Pamela's fancy Charleston lawyers withdrew from the case, citing ethical conflicts. Translation: they didn't want to be anywhere near potential criminal exposure. Randall got suspended from his county inspector job pending ethics investigation. Sheriff Hooper, with the state AG's office suddenly watching, had no choice but to open a real investigation. The night before the rescheduled court date, Garrett walked out to his truck at 3 a.m. Couldn't sleep, thought he'd grab a drive-through coffee. All 4 tires slashed, windows smashed, spray paint across the hood, leave. Glass glittered under the motel parking lot lights like diamonds. The chemical smell of spray paint burned his nose. Cold November air bit through his jacket as he surveyed the damage, breath misting. Sheriff Hooper showed up, took a report with all the urgency of a man filing paperwork for lost luggage. Probably kids. Vandalism happens. You know damn well who did this, Garrett said. Hooper just looked at him. Didn't deny it, didn't confirm it, just looked. Garrett sat on the motel bed at 4 a.m., head in his hands, wondering if he should have just taken Randall's 75 grand, cut his losses, gone back to Pittsburgh. Then he saw Helen's picture on his phone wallpaper, her last words echoing, "Go live your dream, baby." He wasn't giving up. Not now, not ever. Beverly's paralegal found it on a Wednesday afternoon, buried in county archives like a landmine waiting 15 years to explode. A 2009 tax lien certificate misfiled in the wrong drawer, gathering dust. Pamela's great-uncle had owed $14,000 in back property taxes on a parcel of land. The county sold that tax lien to an investor. Great-uncle lost the land. Standard procedure. But here's where it got interesting. The legal description on that 2009 lien overlapped with Garrett's current property by 3 acres. Boundary survey had never been done. The county just assumed it was all the same parcel for decades. Beverly spread the documents across her desk like a winning poker hand. Garrett, Pamela's family did own land here once, but not this land. She tapped the survey map. They owned an adjoining lot, lost it in a tax sale 16 years ago. She's been conflating 2 different properties, either because she's genuinely confused or because she's a damn good liar. Garrett paid $5,000 he didn't have for an emergency boundary survey. The surveyor spent 3 days on the mountain with GPS equipment and old plat maps. The results came back crystal clear. The cabin and 37 acres belonged to Garrett, clean title going back to 1972. The 3-acre strip Pamela's family had actually owned? Wooded hillside, lost in that 2009 tax sale, now owned by some out-of-state investment trust that probably didn't even know they had it. Pamela's generational land claim was for the wrong piece of dirt entirely. Beverly filed an emergency motion to compel, attaching the survey and historical records. The judge, still the visiting circuit judge, thank God, reviewed the evidence during a hearing that felt like watching an execution in slow motion. Pamela's new lawyer, an overworked public defender who clearly drew the short straw, tried to argue for more time to review. "Your Honor, my clients need time to obtain their own survey." The judge cut him off, reading glasses perched on his nose. "Counsel, your clients have 0 legal standing. The survey is definitive. Original deeds are definitive. Why are we still here? Your Honor, we request..." "Denied. Eviction order granted. Sheriff's Department will enforce in 48 hours. Pamela lost it. Full meltdown in the courtroom. Screaming, sobbing, had to be escorted out by bailiffs. "This is my land. My family built this. You're all corrupt." Her voice echoed down the courthouse hallway, even after the doors closed. Randall caught Garrett in the hallway after, got right in his face, close enough that Garrett could smell the tobacco on his breath. "You think this is over? I'll burn that house down before you get it, you Yankee piece of..." A bailiff stepped between them. A bailiff stepped. "Mr. Sutherland, you need to leave, now." Beverly touched Garrett's arm, smiling for the first time in weeks. "We won. It's yours." But Garrett didn't feel victorious. Just exhausted. Just empty. Like he'd been in a bar fight that left everyone bloody and no one standing. 2 hours later, his phone rang. Fire marshal's office. "Mr. Hayes, we received an anonymous tip about hazardous materials stored at your property address. We are required to inspect before any eviction can proceed." Garrett closed his eyes. How long will that delay things? Could be a few days, could be a week, depends what we find. Beverly's voice was tight when he called her. "They're not stalling anymore, Garrett. They're setting a trap." Garrett sat in Beverly's office that night, the reality sinking in like cold water. Winning in court meant nothing if the Sutherlands could sabotage the eviction. He needed more than a lawyer now. He needed a strategy to expose these people so thoroughly, so publicly, that they'd never pull this scam again. He started making calls. Des agreed immediately to document the property's condition pre-eviction, create a visual record of every inch of damage for the inevitable lawsuit. Travis was already loading his crew van in Pittsburgh. 5 guys, all union, all pissed off on Garrett's behalf. Luann offered to organize every county record they'd found into a presentation even a kindergartner could understand. But the real weapon? Marla Chen, investigative reporter for the Charleston Gazette-Mail, known for exposing corruption in rural counties. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Hayes, I've been following your case. When can we talk?" Beverly explained the fire marshal tactic over coffee that had gone cold hours ago. False reports to inspectors are the go-to delay move in evictions. Someone tips off the fire marshal about hazardous materials, even legally stored paint or gasoline, Property gets red tagged, eviction delayed for weeks while they investigate. She leaned forward. Here's what we do. Request an immediate inspection with an independent witness present. If they planted something, it'll be obvious. If they didn't, eviction proceeds on schedule. Garrett scheduled the fire inspection for 6 a.m., 2 days out. Marla would be there at 5:30 with a photographer. If the Sutherlands had staged evidence, it'd be front-page news. If they hadn't, the eviction would happen by 8. Either way, the story was getting told. Des did a reconnaissance run, staying just beyond the 500-foot restraining order limit. Used his drone, perfectly legal, airspace is public, to photograph the property from above. The footage showed fresh paint on Randall's illegal addition, new shingles visible on the roof, landscaping that wasn't there a month ago. Proof of improvements made during the dispute. They're gonna claim you owe them for this, Des said, sending the files. Classic squatter playbook. Beverly had already anticipated it. They'll sue for the cost of improvements, 10, maybe 20,000, and some judges award partial compensation, believe it or not. She pulled out a legal pad covered in calculations. So we sue them first. Cost of restoring the property to pre-squat condition. Offset their claim completely. Her paralegal had been busy too. Pulled Randall's business financials. Public record since he was a county employee. His LLC was $40,000 in debt. Equipment loans months overdue. Pamela's real estate business had cratered 60% since the ethics complaint went public. They were broke. This house wasn't just a scam, it was their last desperate play to avoid bankruptcy. Luann warned Garrett over pie at the diner, her voice low. They're cornered now, honey. Cornered animals bite. She suggested bringing state police to the eviction, not just the local sheriff. Jurisdiction overlap meant less room for favoritism. Also recommended having EMTs on standby. Pamela seemed like the type to fake a medical emergency for sympathy and delay. Marla's investigation uncovered the real gold. 3 properties Randall had inspected in the past year, all owned by relatives or business partners. Code violations ignored, permits rubber-stamped, inspections that lasted 15 minutes on buildings that should have taken hours. This isn't about your house anymore, Marla said during their interview. This is a pattern of corruption. You're just the first person who fought back hard enough to expose it. The coordination came together like a military operation. State police confirmed for 8 a.m. eviction, fire marshal inspection at 6, Marla and her photographer at 5:30, and Travis set up trail cameras around the property perimeter the night before. If the Sutherlands tried planting evidence or damaging anything, it'd be recorded in high definition. Then the PI called with one final piece of intelligence. Pamela's daughter's boyfriend, posting in a private gun forum. Got the boys ready for tomorrow, defending family land. Cops won't do shit. Screenshot included a photo of him holding an AR-15. Garrett forwarded it to state police immediately. The response level got upgraded, tactical unit on standby. Garrett sat alone in his motel room that night, laptop open to messages from strangers who'd found his story online. Dozens of people sharing their own nightmares. Squatters, corrupt officials, stolen homes. One message stopped him cold. Please don't give up. If you win, it gives the rest of us hope. He closed the laptop. Tomorrow, one way or another, this ended. 5:30 a.m. Still dark, mountain fog so thick Garrett's headlights barely cut through it. He pulled up to the property with Beverly and Marla, their breath misting in the cold. Wood smoke curled from the cabin chimney. The Sutherlands were awake, waiting. Frost crunched under Garrett's boots as he stepped out. Marla's camera started clicking immediately, capturing everything. 6 a.m. sharp, the fire marshal arrived, county official but professional, not one of Randall's poker buddies. Randall met him at the door, arms crossed. There's nothing hazardous here. Somebody filed a false report. The fire marshal didn't blink. Then you won't mind me looking. Randall blocked the doorway, 6-foot frame filling it. You need a warrant for this. For a hazmat emergency call? No, sir, I don't. Step aside or you'll be removed. Garrett and Marla stayed outside, photographing the property's exterior while the marshal went in. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. When the marshal finally emerged, his expression was granite. Found 5 55-gallon drums in the basement, unmarked. Could be diesel, could be industrial chemicals. I've never been in that basement, Garrett said, loud enough for Marla's recorder to catch. I've never even been inside this house. The marshal inspected the drums closer, found serial numbers someone had tried to scrape off but didn't quite finish. Ran them through his database right there on his phone. These drums are registered to Sutherland Construction LLC, reported as properly disposed 6 months ago. He looked at Randall. They're filled with used motor oil, illegal storage, environmental hazard, and you just filed a false report about contamination you created yourself. Randall's face went white. I didn't. Someone must have planted your drums, your serial numbers. You're looking at criminal charges and environmental fines up to $50,000. The marshal red-tagged the property on the spot. No one could occupy until professional remediation happened. Randall had just screwed himself, created the delay he wanted but couldn't stay either. Pamela came flying out like a hornet from a kicked nest. This is a setup! He planted those! She pointed at Garrett, voice shrill enough to crack glass. Marla stepped forward, camera rolling. Ma'am, the serial numbers prove they're your husband's drums. Pamela realized she was being recorded and lunged for the camera. Actually lunged, hands out like claws. State police, already on scene for eviction support, intercepted her mid-charge. She fought them, screaming, twisting, had to be cuffed, arrested for assault and resisting. The photographer caught every second. With Pamela in the back of a cruiser, Randall stood alone on the porch with his daughter Crystal and her kids. His shoulders sagged like someone had cut his strings. Please, he said, voice cracking, give us one more day. The kids have school stuff inside, toys, clothes. Garrett looked at Beverly. She shrugged. Your call? Every fiber in Garrett's body wanted to say no, wanted to watch them dragged out the way they'd planned to do to him. But he thought about those kids, confused and scared. 2 hours, he said. Personal belongings only. Everything else stays for inventory. That's when Crystal snapped. She ran back inside and started destroying everything, smashing windows from the inside with a baseball bat, spray painting the walls. Thief! Liar! Burn in hell! In dripping red letters across the living room. State police rushed in, pulled her out, kicking and screaming. Second arrest of the morning. Randall just stood there in the driveway, watching his daughter get cuffed, saying nothing, broken. Garrett stepped inside his house for the first time as the legal owner. The smell hit him first. Decay, mildew, sewage. Human waste smeared on the bathroom walls, deliberate and vicious. Holes punched through drywall. Copper pipes ripped out, probably for scrap value. Broken glass everywhere, crunching under his boots. Cold November air whistling through shattered windows. Marla's story went live within 2 hours. County inspector arrested after squatting in foreclosed home. Photos of Randall in handcuffs. Crystal mid-vandalism. Those illegal oil drums lined up like evidence in a crime scene. Regional news picked it up by noon. By evening, Garrett's story was on Reddit's front page with 18,000 upvotes. The comment sections reversed completely. This man is a hero for exposing these crooks. Finally, someone fought back. Local Facebook groups that had crucified Garrett a week ago posted apologies. Sheriff Hooper released a statement. Investigation ongoing. No evidence of wrongdoing by Mr. Hayes. That night, an email hit Garrett's inbox from an anonymous account. Attached, an audio file of Garrett's voice threatening to kill Pamela's grandchildren. Except it wasn't his voice. Wrong accent, robotic cadence, obviously AI generated. But it had been sent to the FBI, state police, and 3 news outlets. Beverly got the FBI cybercrimes unit involved within an hour. Tech analysis confirmed deepfake software. IP trace led straight to Randall's brother's house. FBI raided the location the next morning, seized computers, found the AI program still installed. Travis called from the road. Dad, you won. It's over. Garrett stood in his gutted, ruined cabin, looking at human shit smeared on his bathroom wall. Did I, though? The hazmat crew took 4 days and $12,000 to remove Randall's oil drums properly. Environmental regulations meant specialized disposal, soil testing, documentation up the wazoo. Garrett watched his savings account bleed out another chunk and tried not to think about it. Dez brought his Pittsburgh crew down that weekend. 5 guys with sledgehammers and contractor bags, ready to gut the damaged interior. During demolition, they found hidden compartments built into the walls behind drywall. Inside, stolen property. Power tools still with Home Depot price tags, spools of copper wire, boxes of imported tile. Randall had been using Garrett's house as a warehouse for stuff he'd lifted from job sites. State police opened yet another investigation. Turned out Randall had been suspected of material theft for years. Other contractors reporting missing supplies, always blaming their workers, never quite enough proof. until now. Victims started coming forward. A framing crew that lost $8,000 in tools. A plumber who'd written off 3 pallets of copper fittings. Randall's charges piled up like firewood. Theft, fraud, environmental crimes, filing false reports, now grand larceny. Pamela, out on bail and spiraling, tried to sell her story to tabloid TV. Appeared on a local news segment with tears streaming down her over-contoured face, dabbing her eyes with tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "I'm the real victim here," she sobbed. "This vindictive outsider is destroying a local family." The comments section roasted her alive. "Girl, you got caught squatting." Criminal cries after consequences, news at 11. Then, Randall filed a mechanic's lien on Garrett's property. $30,000 claimed for improvements and maintenance during occupancy. Beverly had warned this was coming. A mechanic's lien lets contractors claim payment for work, can cloud a property title for months. But here's the catch. The work has to be authorized. Randall's entire construction project was illegal, done on disputed property without permission. Beverly filed a motion to discharge the lien as fraudulent before the ink was dry. Garrett was burning through money like kindling. Legal fees, hazmat removal, repairs. He was $45,000 deep now on top of the original $87,000. Could have bought a turnkey place somewhere else for that money, something that didn't smell like a crime scene. Des asked him over beers one night, "Why don't you just walk away? Sell it as is to some investor, cut your losses." Garrett stared at his bottle. Because then they win, and the next guy who buys it suffers through the same hell. The community started helping in small ways. The lumberyard owner, who Randall owed $6,000, donated materials. Local electricians union, hearing one of their brothers was in a fight, sent a crew for free weekend labor. Luann organized a meal train. Church ladies brought casseroles and cornbread to the work site. Small gestures, but they mattered. Garrett wasn't the outsider anymore. That's when Randall went nuclear. Contacted a local militia group, the kind with Gadsden flag bumper stickers and theories about UN helicopters. Spun them a story about government tyranny helping an outsider steal land from a patriot family. The militia posted videos online. Local family needs help defending homestead from federal overreach. Called for a peaceful protest at the property, which everyone knew was code for armed intimidation. A week later, 30 pickup trucks rolled up Garrett's driveway. Men with AR-15s slung across their chests, legal in West Virginia, open carry state, standing on the public road, chanting. Signs read, "Local land for local people," and "Outsiders go home." State police showed up but couldn't disperse them. Public road, legal weapons, First Amendment. Garrett and his crew were trapped inside, work halted completely. National media descended like locusts. CNN ran a segment about property rights. Fox News ran a different segment about the same thing with the opposite spin. Garrett's renovation project became a political football. He told Marla, exhausted beyond measure, "I just wanted to fix up a cabin. How did this become a war?" Then the veterans showed up. 50 of them, Iraq and Afghanistan era, organized and disciplined. Their leader, a retired sergeant major with gray temples and kind eyes, positioned his people between the militia and the property. Human shield. "We don't care where Mr. Hayes is from," he announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "He followed the law. These militia clowns don't represent us or this community." Outnumbered and outclassed, the militia left within 3 hours, vowed to return but never did. The vet group offered to provide security until the work was done. Garrett, throat tight with gratitude, asked why they were helping. "Because what's happening to you is wrong," the sergeant major said, "and we're tired of bullies." The next day, FBI arrested Randall for the deepfake cybercrime. Combined with everything else, he was looking at 10 years federal time. In cuffs for the cameras, Randall broke. "It was all Pam's idea. She said we could take the house, that adverse possession would work. I just went along." Threw his wife under the bus to save himself. Pamela's real estate license got revoked permanently. The bank foreclosed on her house. Couldn't make payments, buried in legal fees. Her daughter Crystal, the one who'd vandalized, got probation and publicly disowned her mother on Facebook. Pamela was left with nothing, reputation destroyed, broke, and alone. Garrett sat on his newly rebuilt porch at sunset with Travis beside him, watching the sky turn orange and purple over the ridge. The smell of fresh-cut lumber mixed with mountain air. Sawdust coated his hands from carrying beams all day. Someone from the church had brought venison chili, first hot meal in days that didn't come from a gas station. "Was it worth it, Dad?" Travis asked. Garrett watched the sun dip below the mountains. "Ask me when it's done." 3 months after the eviction, Garrett hosted an open house, sent invitations to the entire county, supporters, skeptics, media, state officials, everyone. Wanted transparency, wanted people to see what he'd actually built, prove he wasn't the villain they'd painted. Sunny Saturday in February, BBQ smoking on the lawn, cabin doors wide open for tours. 200 people showed up. Locals, veterans, reporters, curious neighbors who'd only heard rumors. Garrett stood on his rebuilt porch, new railings, fresh stain, solid, and gave a speech while Marla live-streamed it. "I didn't come here to steal anything," he said, voice steady. "I came to build something. And despite everything, I still want to be part of this community." The crowd was listening. Actually listening. Then a car screeched into the driveway. Pamela, uninvited and unhinged. She stumbled out, mascara already streaked, reeking of vodka at 11 a.m. "Liar! Thief!" she screamed across the lawn. "This is my family's land." Every phone came out, 200 people filming simultaneously. She tried to rush Garrett. The vets formed a human wall, gently restraining her without force. She thrashed anyway, sobbing, barely coherent. Garrett took the microphone, voice calm as Sunday morning. "Pamela, I'm sorry for what you've lost, but you didn't lose it to me. You lost it to your own choices." He pulled out a poster board Des had prepared, timeline of the Sutherland family lies backed by county records, photos projected on a screen they'd set up. 1972, property sold to an investor, no Sutherland on the deed. 1983, your great-uncle rented, didn't own. 1987, evicted for non-payment. 2009, different parcel lost to tax sale. 2024, you and Randall squat in my legally purchased home. Each point documented, undeniable. The crowd murmured. Even the locals who'd believed Pamela's story realized how deep the deception ran. Pamela collapsed, sobbing into the gravel. "I just wanted my kids to have something. We had nothing." "Then you should have asked for help," Garrett said. "Not stolen." He offered his hand to help her up. She slapped it away, spitting curses. Sheriff Hooper, present and finally doing his job, stepped forward. "Pamela, you need to leave. Now." She was dragged away screaming, final public humiliation complete. Then Randall's former business partner, Carlos, stepped forward, took the microphone with shaking hands. "I need to say something. Randall screwed me out of $15,000 3 years ago. I stayed quiet because he had power in this county. Watching Garrett fight back gave me courage to sue. I got my money last week." 3 more people came forward with similar stories. Randall's web of theft and intimidation, years of victims too scared to speak up. A woman in a state government suit approached, Attorney General's office, badge on her hip. "Investigation into county corruption is ongoing," she announced to the crowd. Mr. Hayes' case revealed systemic issues. "We've identified 12 properties with similar irregularities. Randall Sutherland was involved in 9 of them." Gasps rippled through the crowd. This was bigger than anyone knew. "Mr. Hayes, your persistence helped us uncover a fraud network. On behalf of the state, thank you." The applause started slow, then built like thunder. Sheriff Hooper approached Garrett afterward, hat in his hands, looking like he'd swallowed glass. "I owe you an apology. I let personal relationships cloud my judgment. Won't happen again." "Just do your job fairly," Garrett said. "That's all anyone wants." They shook hands. Every camera caught it. Marla interviewed Garrett live. "What's next for you in this property?" "I'm keeping it. This is home now." He paused, looked at the crowd. "And I'm going to make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. Partnering with legal aid, offering free property dispute consultations here once a month." The Vets Group pledged security for vulnerable property owners. The community was healing, right there on his lawn. The local pastor who'd supported Pamela early on approached, ashamed. "I judged you without facts. Forgive me." "We all make mistakes," Garrett said. "Let's move forward." People mingled, locals talking with the Pittsburgh crew, sharing food, kids playing tag on the lawn. Bluegrass band Garrett hired filled the air with music, smell of burgers and pine, Warm sunshine breaking through clouds, taste of local apple cider, sweet and sharp, calloused working hands shaking Garrett's, recognizing one of their own. Crystal, Pamela's daughter, approached quietly, sober, eyes clear. "I'm sorry for what I did. The vandalism. All of it." She handed him an envelope. $500. First payment toward damages. I got a job. I'll pay you back everything. Garrett tried to hand it back. "Keep it. Get yourself stable." "No," she said firmly. "I need to make this right. Make this for me." He accepted. Grace, given and received. Sunset painted the mountain ridge gold and purple. Garrett stood on his porch surrounded by friends he hadn't had 3 months ago. Travis and Emily arrived for the weekend, family reunited. Des started the fire pit. People gathered around as stars appeared. Marla's camera captured it all. Community rebuilt. Justice served. 1 month later, Randall was sentenced to 8 years federal prison. Fraud, environmental crimes, cyber crimes, theft. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Pamela got 3 years probation, $50,000 in restitution to Garrett, mandatory mental health treatment. Crystal completed her restitution payments over 2 years, rebuilding her life with Garrett as an unexpected mentor. The county inspector position got reformed, outside oversight, term limits, ethics review board. Garrett had accidentally fixed a broken system. The cabin renovation was featured in Appalachian Living magazine as a triumph of persistence. Garrett's monthly legal clinics drew 20 to 30 people every session. Folks fighting HOA overreach, boundary disputes, title fraud. He partnered with Beverly to create the Mountain Property Rights Handbook, a free PDF that got downloaded over 50,000 times in 6 months. Garrett became a community leader without ever meaning to. State legislators introduced the Hayes Act, requiring 72-hour eviction for proven squatters with fraudulent claims. County ethics reforms passed. No official could hold dual roles in personal legal disputes anymore. The Real Estate Commission created a task force on agent conflicts of interest. National media coverage inspired similar legal fights in 12 other states. One man's stubborn fight had sparked a movement. Garrett scattered Helen's ashes on the property that spring, finally feeling settled. Travis moved his family to West Virginia, started a contracting business with Des that's now booked 6 months out. Emily visits monthly, brings social work clients who need rural retreat space. Garrett's dating again, Diane, the local librarian he met at a town hall meeting. It's cautious, slow, but good. The Veterans Group established a permanent property defense fund, helping vulnerable owners fight legal battles. Luann created a county historical society preserving accurate land records. Local churches organized reconciliation workshops, healing town divisions. The annual Mountain Justice BBQ at Garrett's Place became tradition. 300 people last year, celebrating community over corruption. Garrett started a YouTube channel called Blue Collar Property Rights. Teaches title searches, deed verification, squatter prevention, legal self-defense. His key lesson: always do in-person inspection before buying, always hire a local attorney, always document everything. The channel hit 500,000 subscribers. Turns out people are hungry for practical legal knowledge the system doesn't want them to have. He donated 10 acres to the county for conservation easement, protected forest, public hiking trails, no development allowed. Established the Helen Hayes Memorial Scholarship for local kids pursuing skilled trades. First recipient was Crystal's younger sister, breaking the family cycle. The land Helen's insurance paid for was now giving back. Randall sits in federal prison, estranged from everyone, no visitors. Pamela works minimum wage at a gas station off Route 60, broken and isolated, a cautionary tale people whisper about. Their grandkids, the innocent victims, live with Crystal now. She's raising them different. A year after the eviction, Garrett hosted a town hall on property rights reform. 300 attendees, standing room only. Guest speakers from the AG's office, legal aid, property law experts. Sheriff Hooper presented new department policies on civil disputes, actually implemented them. Garrett facilitated the whole thing. The former outsider now a community pillar. One evening, alone on his porch, Garrett looked at his cabin. Lights glowing warm, smoke curling from the chimney. Thought of Helen. "We did it, babe. Different than we planned, but we did it." For the first time in years, he felt peace. He checked his mailbox the next morning. Letter from a stranger in Montana. "Dear Mr. Hayes, I saw your story. I'm fighting something similar with a corrupt HOA. Can you help? Garrett smiled, tucked the letter in his pocket. Des walked up with coffee. Another one? Yep, Garrett said. Looks like we're not done yet. So here's the deal. If you've dealt with HOA nightmares, corrupt neighbors, or property theft, drop your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else facing the same fight. And subscribe, because every week we're bringing you stories of ordinary people fighting back against broken systems and winning. The cabin still stands on that mountain ridge, smoke rising into clean air, proof that sometimes the good guys actually win. Garrett helped 200 people fight property disputes in his first year. The Hayes Act reduced squatter occupation time by 75% in West Virginia. The corruption investigation removed 6 county officials. The Property Defense Fund assisted 89 families. This is why we fight, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after.